What happened to Boston police officer John O'Keefe on the night of January 29th, 2022? The night began on a positive note. John met some friends at a bar in downtown Canton, Massachusetts called C.F. McCarthy's. After he was there for a while, his girlfriend, Karen Reed, met him. Karen was a college professor and had been dating John for a couple of years. A little later that night, they walked across the street to a second bar, the Waterfall. Also at the Waterfall were John's old neighbors and a fellow Boston police officer, Brian Albert. When the Waterfall closed at midnight, Brian Albert invited everyone over to his house for an after-hours party. And that's when things become much less clear about what happened. Prosecutors say Karen dropped John off at the party, but instead of driving away, threw her car in reverse, going 24 miles per hour for 60 feet, purposely running over John and then driving away to let him die in the cold. Meanwhile, Karen Reed and her attorneys say that never happened. John went into the party. He was ambushed and then put on the front yard to die in the cold. They also claim the lead investigator planted evidence to frame Karen Reed for the murder. Tonight, we hear from that lead investigator, Trooper Michael Proctor, as we continue to investigate the tragic death of Boston police officer John O'Keefe.
I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you for joining us tonight on Closing Arguments. There are big days during the course of a trial, and then there are huge days. The lead investigator, Michael Proctor, on the stand today, and a lot of testimony about a lot of important things for the prosecution. But at the end of the day, the jury has to believe this lead investigator. And there were things that came out today that you wouldn't expect from the lead investigator. Things that came out in front of this jury that really speak volumes about the credibility of this trooper, Michael Proctor, and ultimately the credibility of his testimony. And the question tonight, as we begin this program, is, will this jury believe this investigator? Will this jury trust this investigator and ultimately be able to accept his testimony as being true beyond any reasonable doubt? That's a big question tonight because of what you're going to hear this hour on this program. Let's begin and remind you what Karen Reed's defense is to these charges. I was framed. I didn't do it. Somebody else did it, and then a bunch of people coordinated and conspired to frame me, and seemingly led by this lead investigator, Michael Proctor, a trooper for the Massachusetts State Police who grew up in that town of Canton, Massachusetts. So what exactly did he do? Depends which side of the case you're looking at this from. If you're looking at this from the prosecution case, you know, he investigated, he found important evidence, he brought it into court, he showed it to everyone, he put the pieces of the case together for the prosecutor, for the grand jury, and for this jury, which will make its decision. But if you look at it from the perspective of the defense, he planted evidence. He hates this defendant, absolutely despises her, hates one of her attorneys as well. But the key to this defense is that, yeah, he planted physical pieces of evidence to frame Karen Reed. So how did he do it? Well, it all has to do with the taillight, his access to the taillight, what he allegedly did with pieces of the taillight in placing them at the scene, and doing this all again to frame a woman he absolutely despises and hates. Now, the part of his testimony, and it came out during direct, but was really emphasized in the beginning of the cross-examination, was the text messages and communications he was having about Karen Reed, the one that he basically says she's a whack job. I mean, that's the way he describes her to other officers. But that is sort of the nicest way he describes her. The other ways that he describes her, I cannot say those words on television, and I wouldn't say those words on television. But let's get down to some of what happened today. Again, this is a huge, huge day. Let's bring in Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson, joining us live from outside the courthouse in Dedham, Massachusetts, where every day we go to speak to you, and what happens inside that courtroom gets bigger and bigger. So I don't know where to start today. Well, let me start with the evidence that Michael Proctor presented, because we have to remember, we're in the prosecution case. They're trying to prove a murder case. So what evidence did he present today?
Vinny, nice to see you. This was the one witness that everybody who's been following the case here at the courthouse has been waiting for. Trooper Michael Proctor on the stand on day 22. And he was on the stand initially just under direct, talking about the initial investigation. He oversaw the investigation, talking about the collection of evidence and taking out pieces of evidence and showing that to the jury, including that taillight housing removed from Karen Reed's SUV. He also answered a lot of questions. Why did some of the items and evidence, some of the pieces of taillight get collected so many days later? Take a listen.
Michael Proctor, subsequent dates following February 3rd, specifically February 8th, 11th, and 18th. Did you have occasion to return to 34 Fairview Road on those days?
I did.
And you had mentioned a little bit about sort of changes in the weather. What, if anything, sort of evolved as far as the weather was concerned between the dates of February 3rd when you were there and February 8th, 11th, and 18th?
Yeah, as I mentioned, the weather pattern had kind of fluctuated from 30 degrees up to 60 degrees with a handful of days of heavy rain mixed in. So that caused a lot of snow to melt as well.
And with respect to each of those respective days of February 8th, 11th, and 18th, what, if anything, did you observe or recover, you and the other troopers that were present on those days?
Yeah, there's further evidence that was originally buried under the snow because of the warm temperature and the rain and the snow melting kind of revealed itself. More pieces of plastic, clear and red.
And we're talking about very large pieces of plastic that were recovered there at 34 Fairview almost 3 weeks later. That was shown to the jury today as well. And I can tell you this much, Vinny, we've both been in that courtroom. This jury really loves forensics, and they love to see the evidence. So you better bet when they start their deliberations, they're going to be going over a lot of this again.
And we're looking at those pieces. When you see them in his hand, you see how large they actually are. And these large pieces, they're saying, were buried under the snow, reveal themselves as opposed to like digging through the snow to find evidence. They waited for the snow to melt on 3 or 4 different days. A very unusual circumstance, to say the least. But that's the explanation. Okay, now let's get to the part everyone's talking about. The text messages that were read and revealed to the jury, revealed to the public today inside the courtroom. Tell me about those.
Very tense day here at the courthouse. I'm told, Court TV's in that courtroom each and every day, and I'm told that, for the most part, the jury had a poker face as they're watching Karen Reed react to all of this. She was laser focused on this witness, Trooper Proctor, as he was reading those text messages. And this is something that Karen Reed supporters have been waiting for, this moment. You remember during the pre-trial hearings that we covered so much, that there were signs in front of the courthouse that included ones about Trooper Proctor hating women. Well, today it puts it into context, according to the supporters. Today he was ordered to read those text messages that he sent his boss, sent his superiors, sent other investigators and his friends and family, calling Karen Reed that she's crazy, saying things about her body and her medical conditions. And according to these text messages, he was searching for nude photos of her. Take a listen.
You see a message sent from Trooper DeChico on August 17, 2022 at 9:42 p.m.
Yes.
And is that an image contained on the next page, which is 2683?
Yes, it is.
And what is the image of?
That is a picture of Mr. Yannetti. Appears to be from quite some time ago. Okay, so these came from me. Funny, I'm going through his retarded client's phone. No nude so far. I hate that man. I truly hate him.
You weren't so much as objectively investigating Karen Reed as objectifying her, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
Isn't that right?
Rephrase the question, please.
Again, Karen Reed, the defendant in all of this, the subject of those text messages, laser focused on him, shaking her head at the end of the court day. We were only in the beginning of his cross-examination. So outside the courthouse here, she's the only one able to speak of the people that are possibly on the witness list. The O'Keefe family can't speak. They're choosing not to for the media, and also other people are subject for recall. So of course I'm asking her questions, and I wanted to know what was going through her mind when he was reading those text messages. Take a listen.
Just wondering what was going through your mind. What would you have liked to say to Trooper Proctor today?
I don't have anything to say to Trooper Proctor. He'll have to answer to someone someday. Here or someplace else, Matt.
And you know, he is still under investigation internally for his handling of this case. He is still employed, he is still a trooper, but this is someone that the Commonwealth, we know, was considering not calling, because remember, right before the trial started, Judge Canoning asked the Commonwealth, what are your plans if you don't call the lead investigator, Vinny?
Yeah, and I watched. I mean, they had to call him. They had to call him. They have to acknowledge what he did, number one. But number two, he's the one finding pieces of evidence. Like, you're not putting a person finding pieces of crucial evidence in a case. It just doesn't work. Now, what I found, I mean, this is how bad it was. And you know, we're a little handcuffed here on television, right? Broadcast television. We can't play or say some of the things that he was writing there. But it was to such a point that he didn't even want to say it in court. Like, one of the words that he called her, he spelled it out. And the judge said, no, you've got to say it. Those are your words, right? So then he has to say the word that I'm sure he was not comfortable saying. And my guess is people in the courtroom not necessarily comfortable hearing. But it is what it is. He said it, and he said it about her. Take it for what you want. I just don't think there was a good enough explanation to this jury as to why he hates her so much, right? Like, I can understand, you know, maybe a jury would understand if he came out and said, well, I hate cop killers, but like, I didn't hear that today necessarily. What I saw and heard was him acknowledging all of it and saying it was unprofessional, I shouldn't have done it, it was wrong. It was unprofessional, like we know. But you said it, and you said it when you weren't on the witness stand. So who is the real Michael Proctor, I think, is a question for this jury tonight. Wow, a lot. Let's get to, there was another officer who testified today. It wasn't a long testimony, but may in the end be very significant and important. An officer from the Dayton Police Department. Give us the context, and let's talk about his testimony.
Yeah, he was the second witness to take the stand today after the other lead investigator left from his re-examination, and it was Sergeant Nicholas Barros who took the stand. He responded to the parents' house, Karen Reed's parents' house, because her car was there, and they had a warrant to take the car over to Canton PD. And he was talking about what he noticed when he passed that car in the driveway, making contact with Karen Reed. He said that he saw the tail light was already cracked, and that's really important for the Commonwealth case. Take a listen.
At some point, did you make any observations of the right rear part of that Lexus SUV?
I did.
And what, if anything, did you observe about that area of the vehicle?
I saw that there was some damage to the right rear taillight. To my best ability and recollection, that taillight was not completely damaged. It was cracked. and a piece was missing, but not completely damaged.
So another point that the Commonwealth was making today, and Mr. Barros, he was not cross-examined. They had no questions for him, this defense team. But the point that he was making is that it was already cracked. That's what he saw before it was taken over to Canton in the Sally Port there. And because there was so much to do about the video, the mirrored image video, where Proctor is in back of the car and you can't see what he's doing near the broken taillight.
So, to me, this testimony is cutting both ways, right? Prosecutors need it, right? You need chain of custody, and he saw, oh yeah, it was cracked. But he kept saying not completely damaged. Like, I'm trying to understand what that means, like not completely damaged. Does that mean that the damage is less than what we're seeing here in this picture? Or is it the same as we're seeing in this picture? And as I sit here tonight, it's not clear. I can see the defense saying, well, not completely damaged, meaning, yeah, it got cracked when it hit John O'Keefe's car, and then Trooper Proctor did the rest of the damage. Like, so was it clear today what he meant by not completely damaged?
I don't think that it's clear just yet, and I think that we might have to wait for closing arguments for the Commonwealth to connect the dots with all of this, and we're going to have to wait for the defense case to start their case in chief to connect the dots. But I think that that's a question that is really circulating here in the buzz at the courthouse here in Dedham, Massachusetts. People talking about those big pieces that were shown to this jury that were collected 3 weeks later, but if you have other witnesses saying that it was just cracked and that the majority of the taillight was there and that it was red, it just doesn't add up just yet.
Yeah, creates more gray area, a little bit of fog around this whole thing. Wow, what a day. Matt Johnson in the middle of it every single day up in Dedham, Massachusetts. Thanks so much. All right, folks, when we come back, we're going to bring in our trial insiders and talk about Trooper Michael Proctor, what this all means, and is there a way to defend these text messages? Is there a way for this jury to look at the text messages in one box and then look at his testimony about the evidence against Karen Read in another box? Or does it all get mishmashed together? We'll do that, plus, coming up next hour.
New information straight from the FBI files and the investigation of the murder of Gabby Petito by Brian Laundrie. Tonight, we'll examine this evidence with Gabby's parents.
The next episode of Accomplice to Murder. Vicki Monroe goes on trial for hiring her own son to kill her husband, Jerry.
You wouldn't think that for $3,000, not in a million years.
Leslie Emerson could not have been the mastermind behind this.
She needed him alive. She didn't need him dead.
She was a Class A manipulator.
I just lifted up, closed my eyes, and shot.
Accomplice to Murder with Vinnie Politan. All new episode, Sunday night, 8/7 Central.
Only on Court TV.
The witnesses that I had interviewed, the only individuals that I know or had met prior to this investigation was Julie, Chris Albert, and Colin Albert.
So the question is, right, why would Trooper Michael Proctor put his entire career, his pension, everything on the line, commit perjury, commit a crime by framing someone for murder? Why would he do it? Well, the allegation is that he had a major conflict of interest and was connected to people who were there at the party that night. Take a listen to Trooper Michael Proctor testifying about his connections to people connected to John O'Keefe and what happened that night.
So my sister, Courtney, her friend growing up, Jillian. Jillian's sister's Julie. My sister got to know Julie Albert, Julie Daniels is her maiden name, through her friend Jillian. Julie married Chris Albert. So my sister got to know Chris through Jillian and Julie. And then years down the road, my sister had Julie babysit my nephew. Julie would come from time to time and pick up my nephew from school. So that's how they kind of became friendly. And on occasion, they would be over at my sister's house or at my parents' backyard, Julie and Chris and their kid Colin, and I would happen to be there.
Okay, so that's the alleged connection there. He's kind of laying it out. He'll be cross-examined on that on Wednesday. Let's bring in our guests, our insiders joining us tonight. Karen Reed supporter, creator of the Justice for Officer John O'Keefe and Karen Reed Facebook page, Nick Rocco. Also joining us, criminal defense attorney, college instructor, and author Peter Ellikin, and the YouTuber behind Yellow Cottage Tales, Kevin Lenahan. Now, obviously, the credibility of Trooper Proctor is at question tonight based upon the testimony from today, including all of those, his connections, and then all of those text messages that we heard today. Kevin Lenahan, I'll begin with you. Why should the jury trust and believe Trooper Proctor beyond a reasonable doubt?
The evidence. I mean, I didn't hear anything today that suggested a framing, that suggested planting evidence. Nothing here challenged the evidence. What we might have seen is something we certainly saw things that were inappropriate, that are embarrassing. But they don't impact the evidence. And just one of the things that we see in a lot of cases is where police develop tunnel vision and they maybe go down the wrong path, ignoring the real killer here. But this is a case, that's something that involves bias. But this is a case where the defense is claiming not bias, but that this guy planted evidence at the heart of a conspiracy. And we didn't see anything about that today.
Nick Rocco, what did you see today in terms of Trooper Proctor and whether or not he is someone who is credible, but then also address what Kevin said about evidence of him actually planting the evidence?
Well, as far as being credible, he left Colin Albert's name out of any police report. And this is the one person he says that he has the connection with is Chris, Julie, and Colin. So he left Colin out of the police report. He didn't interview Colin for over a year and a half later after this case. But Michael Proctor today pointed at her vehicle at 507 in John's driveway and he said that picture matches up with the picture that was taken in the Sally Port. Now, anybody with a pair of eyes can see that those two pictures don't match up. So let's move on to the Dighton sergeant there. He arrives on the scene. He's about 5 to 10 feet away from Karen Reed's vehicle. He states there's a crack in there and there's a missing piece. Now, he saw this vehicle before Yuri Buchanan and Michael Proctor took that vehicle to Canton when they brought it into the Sally Port. And as far as his text messages go, I mean, those are despicable, vulgar, and distasteful. It shows what type of man he is other than being on the stand. Because on the stand today, he presented himself as somewhat of a respectable guy, and as any state trooper would. But then the true Michael Proctor came out, and we saw how he really feels about Karen. And as far as, did he have time to plant evidence? I know we're going to get into it the next segment about that video missing footage, so I'll save it for there. But what Michael Proctor did, body shaming a woman, going after her medical conditions, all of his superiors are not telling this man to stop doing what he's doing. And if you or anybody believes for a second that Michael Proctor put down the cell phone when he came across David Yannetti and Karen Reed's text messages, that's just out of this world. There's a reason why he stated he absolutely hated David Yannetti, and then Yuri Buchanan likes it. So now you have the superiors also agreeing that they don't like Karen. And most likely the reason why they don't like Karen is because she didn't stand down to these people. She stood her ground. She's fighting a second-degree murder charge. And as far as planting evidence goes, the taillight at 3 o'clock did not look like. And when the sergeant says it was not completely broken, he's referring to that picture in the Sally Port. That's completely broken. That's missing all the taillight. Okay? It did not look like that when it left Karen's parents' house. So how did it look like that later on? There's only one way. There's only one way. And we're going to find out most likely during cross what really happened.
Peter Ellikin, let me ask you about these text messages and what came out and what he is telling his superiors. And Nick brings up a great point that the superiors aren't saying, hey, let's tone it down here. What are you talking about here? I mean, the words that he used, we can't use here on broadcast television. We can't use it. He didn't even want to say them in court. He was spelling it out. So can the jury look at that on the one hand and then look at the investigator on the other hand and trust his testimony?
You know, I hate to sound over dramatic, but I can't overstate that this repugnant communications, how it really dealt a really severe blow to the prosecution. And I heard from people who were inside the courthouse, inside the courtroom, who said that the jury, who usually never shows expression, they were incredibly expressive. One woman had her mouth open, another had her mouth open with her hand over her mouth, another one was making eye contact with every other juror there, another one was kind of like rolling her eyes and laughing. It really had a severe effect. And one of the things that may trickle down here also is that idea that not only is he sending out these communications, this is the lead investigator who's supposed to be non-biased, play things right down the middle, serious. He's not only sending it to friends and family, this kind of talk and making fun of her medical condition and talking about nude photos of her and all that, but he's also talking to his superiors and people in the Canton Police Department. So I think that would also that would also kind of
that's what I found the most troubling, is that it's going up the chain and nothing is happening as it goes up the chain. Like this is like standard operating procedure, which does not make the Massachusetts State Police look great at all. It makes them look really, really bad, and that's a problem. Let me play this testimony here from the trooper about this allegation of an alleged gift that he was going to get.
My sister starts off, the Canton thing is a homicide. I respond, this is at 3 in the afternoon on the 29th. Don't say a word to anyone. She said, of course not. I respond, in the very least, it's suspicious. She responds, this is your livelihood. And then I would never miss with that. At 3:07, I respond, Julie and Chris were at the bar with the victim and girlfriend. Got to interview them. I texted my sister, what's up? She responded, nothing. I just saw Julie, and she said, when this is all over, she wants to get you a thank you gift. And I respond, get Elizabeth one. Elizabeth's my wife. And my sister responds, because I guess her and Chris were friends with John, and she's so proud of you for leading this.
All right, Kevin, do you see that as an innocent offer of a gift?
Well, let's keep this in mind. We only know this because of the feds, and the feds dug deeply into all the communications, including Michael Proctor's sister and anybody even loosely connected to this defense theory, and they found no evidence of a conspiracy. Michael Proctor is not suspended. He's still working homicide. If they found anything, they would have suspended him. There's no indication of that. And just to go back to what Nick was saying, today was the day for me that I realized when it comes to the defense, the emperor has no clothes. I actually thought, because they understood the impossibility just based on the timelines and based on the circumstances of taking that evidence from the Sally Port, I didn't think they'd go down this road because it's so impossible that you're not going to be able to convince anybody. The only way it's possible is if Yuri is in on it and the 7 troopers at the CERT team are in on it and anybody else that was there. So the fact that they're actually going to go down and suggest that Michael Proctor was smashing taillights in the Sally Port tells me they have nowhere else to go. This is a desperate place for them.
Nick, I'll give you 30 seconds to respond to that one.
So I will say what Peter said is 100% true about the jury. I was there today. These jury members were in disbelief. One of them actually put her notebook down after he started reading these messages. But as far as the gift, it was convenient. It was around the time where Karen Reed was arraigned and arrested around February 1st. Now, after hearing what Michael Proctor said, she wanted to give a gift because they were friends with John. Most likely that gift was because Colin Albert wasn't mentioned. Like I said before, in any police reports, he made sure that nobody in that house was investigated or even considered a suspect. Only Karen Reed was a suspect in this case before they found taillight evidence.
All right, when we come back, we've got more to get to tonight. It's about Trooper Proctor, but it's also about the evidence and what happened to the evidence. Can the jury trust what they're seeing? Was anything altered, like videos?
But Sergeant, the exact time that would show what Trooper Proctor was doing at the right rear taillight, that is missing.
Objection.
Sustained.
The exact time that would show what the person who you identified on Wednesday as being Trooper Proctor, that video is not there, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
This video, Sergeant, you will agree, if that 42-minute period existed, that would have been the only video that would establish the actual condition of the taillight the moment the SUV arrived in police custody in that sally port, correct?
Objection.
You can ask that differently.
Is there any other video other than this one that would show the exact condition of that taillight as it pulled in to the driveway, to the sally port? Or is this the only one?
From that location?
Correct.
That is the video that captures that time frame.
This is a mystery here. This is a video that could really clarify a lot of things. Take a listen here to more of this testimony. Cross-examination relating to the missing 42 minutes, which gives us the Sally Port video from the other side, so you can see the actual tail light in question. Take a listen.
If we could, with the court's permission, begin playing at this time, this is about 5:07 and 10 seconds. That's time of day. We can play for about a little less than a minute.
Okay.
Sergeant, did you see what was depicted on the video that just ran from 5:07 and a few seconds until it was just paused?
I did watch the video.
And how much time would you estimate elapsed as we just watched that video in real time?
15 seconds, maybe.
Okay. And do you see something? You see something in the foreground that just sort of appeared there next to that antique police car?
It appears that the SUV has now pulled into the Sally Port and there's an individual standing behind the SUV.
And do you see what the time of day is on that timer?
I do not.
What is the timestamp where the video is paused?
5:50:46.
5:50 and 46 p.m., correct?
That's correct.
So it appears that this video in about 15 seconds jumps 42 minutes to the 5:50 mark, correct?
I don't know how much it jumps.
Well, from 5:08 approximately to 5:50 approximately, how much time is that?
Approximately 48.
42 minutes, right?
Excuse me, 42. Yes.
That's okay.
That's a big chunk, and that's like the most important time of the video, right? Is that a coincidence? And why does the video look the way it does? We tried to enhance it so you can get a better look at it, and it's, you know, it's just what is this? This looks like VHS from the 70s. What is this? It's 2024. Why would a surveillance video look like this? I don't understand that. And I'm in the video business. I don't get it. Like, I have tapes from the 70s and 80s that look better than this. And this is like the most significant moment for this entire case is right here, and we can't see anything. Let's bring back in our insiders, Nick Rocco, Peter Ellick, and Kevin Lenahan. Peter, why? That doesn't make sense to me. This is not making sense to me that the video, you can't even see it. Yet on another day from that same camera, it's apparently a lot clearer. I don't understand how that happens.
Yeah, I mean, not only is this video not worthless to the prosecution, but it actually works against them because it just raises questions about the credibility here. They do have this video. First of all these gaps everywhere, and the idea was inverted. And the fact that the prosecution didn't even tell us that it was a mirror image and reversed, and we were all thinking it was the right side.
Well, you can't tell. This isn't the mirror. This is a different camera now. This is a different camera where you could actually see the tail light, and it's not mirrored. It's just whatever you call this. What is this?
I'm not sure. I really have. I'm straining my eyes. I'm having trouble trying to figure it out. But it also bothers me that there's this, like, 42 minute. What was going on in those, in 42 minutes or however long when we're not seeing things on the video? And again, I'm putting myself in the position of the jurors. What are they thinking? Are they thinking? Do they have a lot of confidence when the prosecution introduces things like that? Or couldn't the prosecution, maybe they would have helped cure things a bit if when they introduced it, they said, now look, we know it's a mirror image, and there's going to be people popping in and out and gaps in it and all that, and this is that.
They didn't do that.
And that might have helped.
Yeah, Kevin, I don't think you're old enough. Nick's clearly not old enough. Peter might be, I don't know. But I remember, like, when I had like an antenna and you kind of go like this to try to get the signal to come in. Why is a 2022 video, surveillance video, look like that, Kevin? And where are the other 42 minutes?
Well, sadly, I am old enough. I do remember that, watching the old Red Sox games and holding the antennas up like that. It looks to me like, and I'm just speculating here, that there was an older video system there. You don't really need two cameras in there. And they upgraded and got a new one, which the new one was still, that was probably 10 years ago, and the older one was still in there. And so it's not taking a very clear video. But one thing that people should keep in mind here is in these videos, the defense keeps pointing out to Michael Proctor behind the taillight, ominously, right? Well, they didn't delete that, did they? So if you're going to be out there editing and deleting these things, wouldn't you delete that if this is a conspiracy? So, I mean, it just, unless that classic car that's next to it is a DeLorean time machine, there's no way to get the pieces there and bury them 3 feet deep in the snow, unless everybody's in on it. Buchanan and Proctor, who went everywhere together that day in one car, and the 7-man CERT team. So I just don't see how it can happen. Okay, I want to move to another subject, Nick. Because I got to challenge you on this one a little bit, because I think it's a problem. Karen Reed's SUV leaving John O'Keefe's driveway and bumping. Like we've seen this video for years now, right? This is significant. I watch it. I tend to believe that there's some level of contact there. But there's a problem, right? When cars get in an accident, right? Like there's damage on both cars. So Karen Reed is saying that the crack, not the complete damage at the end, but the crack is from this, right? We saw a picture of John O'Keefe's Chevy. Let's take a look at it. I'm not seeing any damage. Am I missing something in this picture? Is this picture altered? Is there damage on the Chevy, Nick?
I personally don't think she would have hit the bumper. If she was going to hit anything, I think it was going to be more towards the middle left of the car. But everybody saw the video. His tire moved. There is no saying that she did not hit the vehicle. Again, everybody with eyes saw the vehicle move. So when they put her taillight back together, like I said the other night, there's only one piece missing, and it's the clear piece. Okay. Now, I know people...
I get it. Let me play one more thing for you, though, okay? Because this is also significant when we're talking about John O'Keefe's driveway. Here's Trooper Michael Proctor talking about the Ring video and what is missing there.
The Ring camera above Mr. O'Keefe's garage, pretty sensitive, so it does not have Miss Reed arriving back at Mr. O'Keefe's house around 12:34 a.m. is approximately was when she should have arrived. The only video, there's a gap from approximately 11:45 p.m. on the 28th to about 5:07 a.m. on the 29th when Miss Reed's backing out. It never has her pulling into the garage. And there's also a second video of Miss Roberts, Miss McCabe, and Miss Reed looking at the broken taillight in the morning.
What, if any, follow-up or inquiry did you make of Ring in regard to those missing videos?
I've inquired several different times as far as if the video is deleted, is there some type of a record?
That was his inquiry, but next question, I'll allow that.
Now, as far as that term that you used before, as far as a digital imprint, can you explain to the jury what you understand that term to mean?
Essentially, a digital footprint is if, a video is created, it's going to leave some type of a record in the archives.
And what, if any, information did you receive from Ring as far as their videos system is concerned in regard to a digital footprint?
Objection.
Not what anybody told you, but what you received.
That if a video is deleted.
Objection.
The objection sustained.
Move to strike.
We're going to strike that.
Upon your further inquiry of Ring, were you ever able to obtain any video from those specific sections where you anticipated video would be?
No.
All right, Nick, here's my problem with this. The defense is objecting. They don't want the jury to hear something, and I'm wondering, well, what is it? It seems to me, the inference I would take from it is that, oh, they don't want the jury to hear about Karen Reed potentially deleting these Ring videos. What's going on here? Why don't the Ring videos exist, number one, and who could have deleted them? I mean, could Karen Reed have deleted them? Could Trooper Proctor have deleted them?
Well, I can't tell you why they don't exist, but what I can tell you is the niece testified that Karen Reed did not have access to the Ring camera footage. John was not home that night, right? So Karen didn't have his cell phone to get into John's Ring footage, but there was one person who did have John's phone, and that was the Canton police until it was handed over to Michael Proctor. We know he was going through the phone, looking at all Karen's stuff. He also had said that he was going through John's phone as well, and that's why he was able to see some of the Ring stuff and then subpoenaed Ring to get the footage. Now this stuff wasn't handed over, and as we heard, there's no log of this. So to find out who logged in, who deleted what, it's going to be a mystery forever. The left side's going to say she deleted it.
That's bad.
The right side's going to say it was deleted by someone else.
Before we run out of time, Peter Elkin, so how does this whole issue play now? Because the two most important videos that would show the tail light potentially don't exist for this jury. What's the jury going to take away from that?
At least, well, once again, confusion, and then that always goes to the benefit of the defense. However, the bottom line is that they did see that there was impact. That's irrefutable, that she did hit the vehicle of O'Keefe. So if that's what they have in their mind, that there was clearly an accident there, then that brings up a reasonable doubt.
We're out of time for tonight. We're going to do it again tomorrow. Don't worry. We'll be back.